sports. NFL Week 1. Our first games are tonight. Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. I'm Neil Dietrich. That's Steve Weil, my co-host.
Yo, yo, yo.
Connecting you to a better sports community. Yeah, NFL Week 1. I've got butterflies in my stomach, Steve. I swear. This is the best time of year. Normally we kind of get into it a little bit better with preseason, but now it's almost like it's here. It's upon us within hours. But let's backtrack a little bit. We haven't been on the air in a little bit, so I just want to do a couple quick reactions to the NBA, our NBA picks. My Jazz lost, my Mavericks lost. I still got the Celtics there, but they're going into a Game 7 against Toronto, so I'm a little. Apparently, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to the NBA. So,
I mean, you could have picked Portland and the Sixers. That's all. That was also a bad pick.
I did stand by my Lakers that I think they could pretty much beat up on any team they wanted to. It looks like Harden and the Rockets are giving them some trouble, but I don't think it should be an issue. And then apparently the Clippers, they beat up on my Dallas Mavericks, pushing around Wonder Boy, Luka Doncic, getting in his head. They might be the new bad boys of the NBA. I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable with that win they had to beat Dallas, and now they're just steamrolling the Nuggets after the great series with the Jazz. So what were your thoughts on some of the games that we watched?
So first, I'm kind of on the Lakers bandwagon now, even though I hate LeBron, because I love Rondo so much, and he's back. He hit like 3 threes in a row, which is not normally how he plays the game, but it was a clutch moment in that game the other night. It kind of like gave them a double-digit lead and came out of nowhere, and they didn't relinquish that lead after that. So I like seeing Rondo play good, and I would love to see Rondo get another title. I feel like his career hasn't lived up to how good he was when he played in Boston. So that's my first take on LA. The Clippers, they're going to win that series, and then LA are probably going to play each other, and they're not even going to be in LA. Do you believe that like we're finally going to have an LA Western Conference Finals, and they're not going to be able to make any money off this at all? Just had 7 playoff games back to back just in LA. It would have been wild, and they're playing all those games in Orlando.
It's a good point.
And then for the East, I like Toronto. I've been worried about Toronto this whole series with the Celtics, but they had to do that double overtime game was gritty. They played scrappy, kind of dirty. Lowry had a questionable dirty foul. Kind of I feel like if it was the Warriors and it was Draymond, he might have gotten suspended for a play like that. But so yeah, I like Toronto. I'm really excited to see them playing Game 7. Boston's obviously the better team, but Toronto might be the more experienced team. So I'm excited to see what happens there. And yeah, the Heat, man, I'm still picking them. I got the Heat over everybody. Let's go. Heat to the championship.
Yeah, Butler and you were talking about the Heat even before this playoff kind of started that they might be a sleeper. So
yeah, I tweeted like back when the bubble started the first time I watched them play. I'm like, oh shit, the Heat are like the second best team in the East right now.
Yeah, isn't it? The Bucks kind of just fell off. I mean, he got hurt too. He's got an ankle injury, but besides that, they were still struggling to win.
But Giannis' supporting crew isn't great. I mean, Bledsoe, Middleton, they shy away from big moments, and they always have. They've never been star complementary players for Giannis, and so a team can make Giannis beat them, and if Giannis can't beat them, then their complementary players struggle to keep up.
My last note on the NBA bubble is I think they did a great job, and the future looks bright for the NBA. I mean, they got these young stars, Murray, Donovan Mitchell, John Morant. And those are all teams in the West, but those teams are up and coming. I mean, you still got Boston in there with Tatum. So it's exciting to see. I hope LeBron gets it. I think LA keeps cruising. The Clippers looks like the Clippers are going to cruise too, but I just think LeBron is going to win. And whoever comes out of the East, I don't think they match up against either LA team.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for an East team to win. I think Boston's got the best shot. Miami would probably struggle. But yeah, either LA team would have an easier matchup in the finals than they would in the Western Conference Finals. I think they'll struggle to get to the finals before they struggle to win the finals.
So games that we got coming up: Celtics Toronto Game 7, Rockets Lakers Game 4, and Clippers Nuggets Game 5. So Clippers should win Game 5. That series should be over, and then the Lakers need to win 2 more. Oh, do they have? Yeah, they need to win 2 more. I think they're up 2-1.
Yeah, they're up 2-1 right now.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears. The NFL is upon us. I was thinking I was watching everybody do their show today, picking their teams, because everybody kind of does it right before the NFL starts. Colin Cowherd, the Dan Patrick Show, they all take their takes and who's going to win. I heard a lot of the same stuff. What I didn't hear was anything about the coaching, which I thought was odd, and I kind of think this league is special as far as coaching as a craft for the NFL. I don't know if you could say that about any other sports, MLB or NBA, as far as how important I think the coaching and the coaching staff and the schemes that evolve around them is important to the NFL. We look at Andy Reid and we look at Bill Belichick and just their coaching tree and hierarchy of, who they've had proteges and they've had people under them that they've trained to have successful programs. So I find that very interesting. We have a list of playoff records for the current coaches that are in the NFL right now. Bill Belichick on top with 31 wins, 11 losses. Sean Payton with 8 wins, 7 losses. Andy Reid, 15 wins, 14 losses. John Harbaugh, 10 wins, 7 losses. Pete Carroll, 11 wins, 9 losses. Mike McCarthy, 10 wins, 8 losses. And Mike Tomlin, 8 wins and 7 losses. And then interesting, I put on this list just for this year's football season is Bruce Arians has got 1 win in the playoffs and 2 losses. His best year was with the Cardinals when they won their division, 2013. They won their division. So he's got a lot to live up to. It's almost like Brady might be helping him get on this board of impressive coaching staffs. What do you think?
That's that list just coaches that have won Super Bowls?
That's just the list I put together as far as teams that are kind of in the hunt to win it this year. There's
Gotcha.
there's a couple of them I did leave off. You're right, Peterson's in there, but I don't think he has as many playoff wins. He's fairly new coach, right?
Yeah.
Patterson.
Yeah, Peterson only has like 3 wins.
Yeah, so
4.
So I didn't. Bruce Arians is 1 and 2, so I guess we could include him on that second tier. But yeah, the initial coaches I put on there were these long-time coaches that I think their legacies are up for stake. And the big storyline is Bill Belichick losing Tom Brady to Tampa Bay, and can he win without him? I think that is the biggest test, and I think Bill Belichick is one of those people that he's going to fight for his legacy. So I think he wants to win. They signed Cam Newton. That's not in the realm of tanking for Trevor Lawrence in my eyes.
Yeah, no, Bill Belichick was never going to tank.
Right.
Especially with Tom Brady still playing. If Tom Brady retired, then he didn't have anybody to compete with. But he's kind of like got this competition now with Tom Brady. He has to outperform Tom Brady's team to prove, I'm the reason that we are great. Tom Brady was part of my system.
Right. So I put these other guys on the list. Andy Reid obviously just got his first Super Bowl, but he's been there. He's been to the Super Bowl twice. He's won 2 conference championships. and 15 and 14 isn't a great record, but 15 wins is a lot in the playoffs for playoff wins.
He's the only coach on that list who's been successful with multiple teams. Everybody else has kind of been successful with just one team. But he was great in Philly, got to the Super Bowl, didn't win it, but, was played in like 3 consecutive NFC championship games. Won a lot, won the division a lot in Philly, and then went to the Chiefs, and he has had success in Kansas City and ended up getting his first Super Bowl there. So I think that's an interesting caveat to his career, how he was not only successful in one with one team, but successful with 2 teams.
That's a good point. Yes. Other people I have on this list is John Harbaugh, Sean Payton. And the reason why I have these people on these lists for this discussion is because I think Drew Brees and these older quarterbacks, they only have a couple more years left to win another Super Bowl. Sean Payton, I think, is one of them with his team. They're in a win now mode. They need to win now while they still have Drew Brees, while he's got something left in the tank. He's been there before, 8-7 in the playoffs. He needs to prove something. John Harbaugh, 10-7, won Super Bowl, won conference championship. He's got this up-and-coming star, Lamar Jackson. Is this just the beginning of his legacy? Does he roll with Lamar Jackson for 3 or 4 touchdowns or 3 or 4 Super Bowls in the next 10 years? And that goes with Andy Reid. Mahomes just signed a 10-year contract. Is this just the beginning of his legacy? So Pete Carroll won Super Bowl, 2 conference championships. Everybody's talking Russell Wilson, MVP this year. He's got the talent. DK Metcalf.
Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
Josh Gordon, they signed.
Yeah. I don't know how much I believe in Seattle. I do believe in Pete Carroll, and I believe in Russell Wilson. Mike McCarthy, now with the Cowboys, who people have been taking for years on end for the last 5 years to win it. But Mike McCarthy, 10-8, won Super Bowl with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, and won conference championship. And then Mike Tomlin with Pittsburgh, 2 conference champions, 1 Super Bowl. So I think a lot of these teams, the coaches have a lot in it for, who goes to the Super Bowl. I think they have a lot of riding on this as far as their legacy goes. And that's why, all right, we'll segue into our forecast, NFL forecast, and the teams. But a lot of the teams that I'm picking and my Super Bowl predictions are based off of these coaches and why I'm picking their teams either, win the division or win the Super Bowl this year. All right, so the NFL Picnic Sports NFL forecast. Steve, let's start with the NFC North.
So I'm on the Detroit Lions for the NFC North. So I went through and I did win-losses for every game, and basically it's based on, no data. We have no idea if anybody's actually going to be as good as we think they're going to be, but I think Detroit's going to be a sleeper team. They're going to surprise a lot of people, going to get some wins that people don't expect them to get, and Matt Stafford was going to contend to be the MVP of the league this year. So I've got them going 11-5 and winning the North. I also have Chicago going 5-11 because I don't think Chicago's that good.
Okay, yeah, I heard some people talking about Detroit. The thing with the NFC North is I have no idea. That was the hardest one for me to pick. I literally had no idea. I'm like, Vikings defense is pretty good, but they just lost one of their best pass rushers. I mean, hopefully he comes back, and then Dalvin Cook, does he stay healthy? And can Kirk Cousins win it? I mean, we've seen Kirk Cousins win a playoff game. Was it last year? Kyle Rudolph in the end zone. Was that to beat the Saints last year? So we've seen him in big moments win a game.
That was an egregious pass interference, just for everyone to remember. No call.
And then you got the miracle, Stephon Diggs. Was that 2 years ago against the Saints as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he can win playoff games. I don't know. I almost like I'm having a hard time picking the Vikings. They are the favorite to win it. If you ask 10 out of 10 people, they would pick the Vikings. But I'm going with the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers is pissed off and he's motivated more than ever. They didn't give him any help. They drafted a running back out of Boston College specifically to run it on third down or in goal line work.
They drafted a backup quarterback.
Yeah, so and then I don't know how good their defense is. I know Jairo Alexander is a pretty decent corner. I was looking at some of the rosters, and the reason why I picked the Vikings initially is because I was like, their defense is good, and the Bears' defense is good. Detroit's defense is their defensive line is okay. And I was like, that's going to be a lot of pressure for Aaron Rodgers to overcome. Maybe he doesn't win the division. But I honestly don't know. I picked the Packers only because of last year's stats. They went 13-3, and Aaron Rodgers is pissed. I think Chicago is better than people think.
Not with Mitch Trubisky.
They don't make the playoffs, but they'll make it difficult for everybody in the NFC North. It'll be like the Redskins in Philly.
They have to go to Nick Foles if they want to be competitive. Every game they start with Trubisky is a loss.
Well, what if that happens and all of a sudden they just start winning? Their defense is elite.
But they didn't start Nick Foles as their starter. They started with Mitch.
There's plenty of games left. So you can agree the Bears defense is elite?
Yeah, it's gonna be elite. Stafford's gonna eat them up week 1.
All right. So let's go to our division, the NFC East. What do you think?
All right, so this one was tough for me. I've got New York and Washington going 2-14 and 3-13. I couldn't find wins anywhere on their schedules. It was terrible. That's obviously probably not going to happen, but I just didn't pick them in any games. And then I've got Dallas and Philly both going 11-5. I don't know who would win the tiebreaker at that point, so I kind of just picked Dallas to be the winner and Philly to be the wild card in that situation.
Yeah, you educated me this morning. I didn't realize we would have 3 wild cards this year.
Yeah, for first time they're going to do 7 playoff teams, 1 bye, and 3 wild cards. So we'll have 3 games in the first round, and then 2 games in the second round.
Interesting. I like it because I had some teams I felt were being left out of my picks, and I was like, good, I can add them now.
There you go.
NFC East, I took the Cowboys. They've always had the roster. They've always had the talent. It was just a matter of making it happen. Dak's on the franchise tag. If he goes to the Super Bowl, if he goes to the NFC Championship game, does he get paid? I would say if he goes to the Super Bowl, he does. I think it's finally happening. I'm going to take the Cowboys to win the NFC East. The Giants play a little bit better. They're my team. I think they play better, but they're not there yet. The Redskins are just going to wreak havoc on the division.
The Washington football team.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. I got to learn. I was actually before this podcast, it's like when I talk about Washington, I got to remember that they're no longer the Redskins. Yes, the Washington football team is scary good defense. They've actually switched their defensive front. It was a 3-4. Now they're running a 4-3 with the new coach. Who's actually somebody we know. Who the hell is it? You got that on?
Ron Rivera?
Yeah. No, not the head coach. The defensive coach.
Oh, I have no idea. That's real, actual research that you would have had to ask me to do.
Well, see, I did it. Jack Del Rio. So
Del
Rio,
okay.
He changed their scheme. He had Luke Kuechly and that Carolina's defense that was really good that year. That Cam went to the Super Bowl. So a 4-3. Chase Young on the outside. They got the Florida State kid on the outside. And then the 2 D tackles from Alabama that played together, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen. So that defensive front, and they still got Kerrigan. He's second on the roster behind Chase Young. So if Chase Young needs a breather, he's going to throw in Kerrigan. So that defensive front is good.
That's going to be a tough week 1 matchup for the Eagles, who have an entire offensive line on the injured reserve.
Yeah, it's a scary front 4. The middle linebackers leave something to be desired, but they do have Landon Collins as a safety. I think they have another decent cornerback, but the defense is solid. And then I also say that Haskins and McLaren are underrated. I don't know how much time they'll have to connect, but I can see them surprising people. But overall, Cowboys win that division. No, the division's going to suck again, like it always does, I think. And nobody gets a wild card out of that division.
Wild. You don't think the Eagles get a wild card? Wild. That's crazy.
NFC West. What do you got?
So I've got all of these teams getting 10 wins. I don't know how that happened.
It's a good division.
Crazy. Yeah. Arizona, San Francisco both go 10-6. LA and Seattle both go 11-5. And I've got LA winning the division and Seattle getting a wild card out of there. I really like LA to bounce back. I didn't really, as I was doing like fantasy research, I really didn't take a lot of Rams guys. I just didn't really like the situation. But the more I did, I listened to what people were saying and the things that they were doing in LA. I really like them this year to have a bounce back year.
Interesting. Yeah, there's been some woes about the offensive line. But I think Sean McVay is smart enough to overcome those. They just signed Jalen Ramsey. I don't know how they get all this money. I mean, they got to cut. They're going to have to move around some money somehow. Then, I don't know. That news was supposed to come out today, I think.
Yeah, $105 million deal.
Yeah, so they paid Aaron Donald. They paid Jared Goff. They paid Jalen Ramsey. I don't know how much money that leaves around for everybody else, but I like Cooper Kupp. I think they're going to throw it to a lot of the tight ends. We'll see what their backfield looks like. I don't know how good they will be running the ball, but their defense is pretty good with Aaron Donald pass rushing and Jalen Ramsey in the back. So, okay, so you got the Rams winning it. Seattle wild card, cool. I'm just going to take the defending champs, the 49ers, and normally I wouldn't. The Rams, they went to the Super Bowl, they went all in and they lost, and then they were terrible the next year, right? I find this situation different because the 49ers built their team by the draft. They keep winning. They got Nick Bosa. They did bring over a linebacker from Tampa Bay, Quan Alexander. But a lot of the guys that they have on their defense, they drafted.
I think San Francisco's problem is going to come down to just offensively being healthy or not. All their wide receivers are questionable going into the season. So, what's Jimmy Garoppolo going to do? Hand it off? 40 times? Can you win enough games in that division if you hand it off 40 times? Maybe. I don't know.
I think you can, and that's why I think they keep winning. Their offensive line's solid. They lost their Pro Bowl left tackle that's been there forever, and then they drafted a tackle. So they shored up their only weakness going into the offseason with a left tackle. And their defense is – I'm a defensive guy. The defense is there still. They got all the same – they're going to be good. Richard Sherman's still there. Top to bottom, their defense is great. And then they can run the ball. We saw them run the ball in the playoffs. They don't even – sometimes it's weird because they didn't trust Garoppolo to throw the ball, and then they just started running the ball, and it was working. And they put up, tons of rushing yards against Green Bay in that championship game.
That's another reason why I think Green Bay was a fraud last year, because San Francisco beat them by throwing 8 passes.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know. All
right. So that's my reason. 49ers take the crown of the NFC West, built by the draft, keep winning, good coach. All right, NFC South.
All right, so this one, I had originally picked Tampa Bay to win, go 12-5, and New Orleans to get the wild card, or 12-4, and New Orleans to get the wild card at 11-5. But then Mike Evans' hamstring injury came out, and that kind of concerns me because the whole reason I like the Bucs, the whole reason I like Tom Brady in that system is he has the best receiving core he's ever had, potentially. Maybe not Randy Moss being the best, but the combined receiving core, either way. If you don't have that receiving core, then it kind of takes away from a little bit of what we thought he might be able to do. So I went back, I looked at my matchups, and I flip-flopped a Tampa Bay, New Orleans win. I thought Tampa Bay would win a game. I gave it to New Orleans instead. So I flip-flopped it. New Orleans is going to win the division at 12-4. Tampa Bay is going to be the wild card. Carolina wins one game.
Really? No faith in Bridgewater McCaffrey, huh?
Bad defense. Really bad defense.
Okay. So for my NFC South pick, it was tough for me because New Orleans, I think, is win now. They paid Kamara. Sean Payton, good coach. Drew Brees wants it. They all want it. Dude. And then Thomas catches everything. I mean, he's elite. Their defense is better. Always surprises people. All right, but I took Tampa Bay. And the reason why I took Tampa Bay is I think the storyline fits. The Super Bowl's in Tampa Bay. The defense is better with Brady. You don't have Jameis Winston back there leaving their defense in terrible situations on terrible field position, throwing interceptions or fumbling the ball. I think Tampa Bay's defense has the young talent, Levante David and their young LSU middle linebacker that they drafted a couple years ago. And their secondary is not bad as well. But I think Tampa Bay's defense plays a lot better when they're under less pressure. And Mike Evans is fine, dude. I know he had the same hamstring injury last year, but these type of players play.
He's going to win an IR the year last year. If it's the same hamstring and he hasn't gotten better, he might not be 100% the whole season. It just scares me. I still gave him the wild card spot. I only flip-flopped one game. It scares me. I can't pick them to go to the Super Bowl now. They're not healthy going into the season.
I got you. But now it might not be a Mike Evans show. Now it might be Rojo and Leonard Fournette and Brady just dumping it to Godwin and the tight ends. You remember when Brady had the two tight ends, Gronk and Hernandez? This could be Gronk and Howard, man. I mean, they might not even need Mike Evans. Not saying that. They don't need him, but they might not. They could be just running the rock, playing good defense, and Tom could be essentially managing the game, even though I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to air it out. I think Tampa Bay, and a lot of people think this, but I do think Tampa Bay wins the South. And the
Tom Brady's going to go for Tom Brady's going to go for every record that he can. He wants yards, touchdowns. When they're down there in the red zone, they're going to call a run play. He's going to audible to a pass play. He wants to prove that, he's the guy. He's the reason.
Isn't that great? Isn't that going to be great? It's going to be great watching Tampa Bay. I'm fucking excited. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's going to be. I couldn't believe that it's going to be more exciting than watching Tampa Bay with Jameis, because there was nothing more electrifying than watching Tampa Bay with Jameis. But this might be better.
And honestly, I had to stay away from the New Orleans Tampa game this weekend. I had no idea who's going to win that. I mean, Drew Brees I don't know what his record is against Tom Brady, but it's a new system for Tom Brady. I know he learns fast, but I don't know. I stayed away from that. It's basically a coin flip game, but who wins it? I have no idea. It doesn't define the season either. I mean, one loss in the first week. It doesn't. I mean, learn from it. All right, so the NFC wild cards, I have Seattle, New Orleans, and Arizona. So three teams coming out of the NFC West. It's just a dynamic division. I mean, Arizona has the potential to win it if they wanted to.
Yeah.
They drafted Isaiah Simmons, who's a player that can change that defense. He could be all over the field. But besides that, they have young DeAndre Hopkins on the other end. They have young players. Kyler Murray is just electric. So they could win the division easily. And then Seattle, Russell Wilson is everybody's favorite MVP. I agree. I mean, him and Pete Carroll could do it, especially since they got some weapons for him now. And again, New Orleans, they have to win. This is win now for them. Drew Brees and Sean Payton. So, what'd you have for the wild card?
Oh, yeah. So, Philly, Tampa Bay, Seattle. So, I think we have the same teams in there minus what? I have the Rams, you have San Francisco, I have Detroit. You have Green Bay. That's it. Everything
Yep.
else is the same. Oh no, I have
Yep.
Philly. You don't have Philly.
No.
What did I miss? I don't know. Oh, Cowboys. I don't know. Keep it moving. Let's go to the AFC.
All right. AFC North, Ravens. AFC East, I got Patriots. AFC West, Chiefs. AFC South, Texans. Now that one was tough for me because I like the Colts, but I think that's pretty much chalk. I guess you could make the case for that AFC East, Patriots and Bills, but I just don't think with Cam Newton signing and Bill Belichick, this is it's going to be all right. So the Bills had 10 wins last year. You're telling me, and the Patriots had 12 wins. You're telling me that the Bills get 12 wins this year? You need 12 wins to win the division.
That's what I have them getting. I have them getting 12 wins.
I just don't think it's going to happen. They can get 10 wins and they'll get the wild card, but 12 wins seems like a lot for me. That's like I don't know. There's certain teams that you kind of just like, yeah, they're a 12-win team, and that would be like Green Bay or New Orleans or you know what I mean, like Ravens or Patriots. I just don't see them. Not yet. Maybe next year. I just don't see them this year getting 12 wins. A lot of my friends are going to hate me for that, but if you're listening now, it's not that I don't like the Bills. I just think the Patriots and Cam Newton is really bad news for you. And Miami is up and coming. I mean, and then the Chiefs chalk. And then I like the Broncos in the AFC West. In fact, I love their defense. Sad face for Von Miller because him and Chubb was injured last year when Von was healthy, and now it's the exact opposite. It's almost like the J.J. Watt and Clowney with the Texans. They can never be on the field together.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough loss for Denver. Let's see. I got Buffalo winning the East, Baltimore winning the North, Tennessee winning the South, and the Chiefs winning the West. I like, the Chiefs would continue to dominate. Baltimore, I think, is going to continue to dominate. Buffalo's going to continue their improvement. And I like Tennessee a lot this year. I have a lot of Derrick Henry in my fantasy football leagues. So, go Titans.
Yeah, I did leave them out. They were surprised for me last year. Their defense is actually the defense they signed Javion Clowney.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I left him out, but I did. I'm going to stick with it though. I think that Deshaun Watson, I think he's going to be in that upper tier for quarterbacks. He just got paid like one, and now he's got to prove it. So Texans win the South, but I like Philip Rivers and the Colts a lot. The offensive line, I think they run the ball a lot and play good defense. Bills wild card, and then Denver wild card with that defense. And I love Drew Lock and his young weapons, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton just went out with a shoulder injury.
Oh no.
Yeah, I just saw the news report before we went on the Zoom, and he was escorted back to the locker room with trainers. So that doesn't look good.
No, it does not. That's 2 injuries for the Broncos. Broncos fans pulling hair out of their heads.
So you don't think Pittsburgh has a bounce back year with Ben coming back? That team was almost in the playoffs with Duck Hodges as a quarterback.
Yeah, that defense is good.
Yeah, defense is really good.
I just don't know who to take out. I mean, who do you take out? The Colts or Denver? Maybe Denver now because, I mean, they got to play the Ravens twice. That's 2 losses.
I could split with the Ravens. I don't know if I pick that. I only have the Ravens losing twice all season.
Cleveland could be pesky. I mean, they could split with Cleveland. And then Cincinnati, they could be pesky and split with, Cincinnati. You essentially need to win out. We win both games against the Browns and Cincinnati.
Yeah, I've got Pitt going 9-7 and getting a wild card. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think they have a bounce back year. I think Ben Roethlisberger has a chance to be a fantasy stud, which would mean he'd play good for the Steelers.
you're making me think a lot, Steve. You're making me think. I don't, Jake's a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan too. He's probably gonna come on the show and rip me one. But but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't pick him. I mean, and that's Mike Tomlin's up there too in that coach's legacy. I mean, him and Big Ben are tied together, just like Peyton and Breeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to just like Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. So they need to bring their quarterbacks, into this legacy for them. So
yeah, I think Denver might just be a year away, maybe a year or two away. I've only got them winning 6 games this year, which is weird. I liked them a lot more going into the season, but when I did my picks, I didn't have them winning close games.
Yeah, it's a tough division too, right? Because you're in the Chiefs division. Chargers.
I think the Raiders are going to be competitive in that division. They always are. And then the Chargers play that division tough, even though they don't play anybody else in the NFL tough.
Right. Right. I mean, divisional games, that's how it is. They always play the divisional games tougher than anybody else. You know what? It's week 1. We might revisit this week 5, and we were completely off. But
so, did you make a Super Bowl pick?
Oh yes, let's talk Super Bowl. So championship picks. I took Tampa Bay versus the Chiefs. Tampa Bay winning it. A lot of people are taking Baltimore. I think Chiefs run it back. I think they go right back to the Super Bowl. And the only reason why I picked Tampa Bay is because Brady needs to prove something. Brady's got a healthy defense and some fire weapons on offense. It's in Tampa Bay. It just feels right. It just feels right to pick them. And I'm here in Tampa Bay. I wouldn't feel right not picking them. NFC Championship game, I have Dallas versus Tampa Bay. I think Dallas gets there. I think Dak and McCarthy is an experienced playoff coach. I think they get there versus Tampa Bay, and then the AFC Championship, Baltimore Chiefs.
Yep. So I've got Cowboys, Saints, Chiefs, Ravens, and then Ravens, Saints in the Super Bowl, and Ravens win.
Ravens win.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to take the Ravens, isn't it? I mean, the way
I wanted them to get it so bad last year, and to lose the way they lost, to like look like they just came up like playing bad. You know what I mean? Like they ran through every defense all season long, and then that last game it just looked like they just couldn't get on the same page, and then that's just a tough way to go out.
They did themselves a favor in the NFL draft, drafting J.K. Dobbins, Ohio State running back, to improve that running game, only to make it better. And then they also drafted Patrick Queen from LSU to shore up that awesome defense in the middle linebacker position. I mean, they just got better.
So I also had originally picked the Bucs to win the Super Bowl prior to the Mike Evans hamstring news. Or not to win, but to be there. But when I did the flip flop, then that gave the Saints the home field advantage in the playoffs. So the Saints win that playoff game. So that's why they moved into that Super Bowl spot instead of the Bucs. How about this? How about Patriots Bucs in Tampa Bay? What are the chances?
That is too much of a storyline. That's like almost perfect. That's almost a perfect Super Bowl, and that's why I don't think it happened. That's too fairy tale like. That's why.
All right, it could only be a little bit of a fairy tale, not the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's, I don't know. That I might be thinking, is this real life? Am I in some sort of simulation or what?
Here's another fairy tale one: Detroit versus New England. Matt Patricia versus his old boss there, Bill Belichick.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the coaching tree yet, or we talked a little bit of it when we're talking about the legacies, but I wonder if I could bring that chart up in the.
So yeah, Andy Reid and Bill Belichick's coaching trees, they both had like 10 assistants go on to be head coaches in the league. They both have like 4 current coaches. I think Bill Belichick has 2 players, Mike Vrabel and Cliff Kingsbury, who
Yeah.
are also coaching, which is cool. I didn't,
Yep.
Andy Reid doesn't have any players who went on to coach, but Andy Reid's coaching tree has more Super Bowls if you exclude, Bill and Andy from the numbers. John Harbaugh and Doug Peterson both won one, and they had to beat Bill either in the playoffs or the Super Bowl to get there. So that's kind of like an interesting dynamic there.
Yep. Todd Bowles was also under the Andrew Reid's coaching tree, and he is playing the offensive coordinator position for the Tampa Bay Bucks, or defensive coordinator position. I'm sorry. Todd Bowles, defensive coordinator position for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Sean McDermott, obviously, for the Bills, and Matt Nagy for Chicago, still ongoing, and Doug Peterson, your Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I didn't realize Sean McDermott was part of the Andy Reid coaching tree. I actually like the Bills more now.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, really. That's why I found it interesting. The coaching tree for Bill Belichick's interesting to me because Joe Judge is now the coach of the Giants.
Yep.
And then Brian Flores in Miami, that's an up-and-coming franchise, I think. He did a good job getting some late week wins for Miami last year, and he didn't get fired. So I think they like him down there, and they just drafted Tua. I'm excited for the Dolphins in the coming years. They actually play the Patriots this weekend. I hope Jordan Howard gets the ball a lot. I picked him up in one of my leagues. I got Mahomes in one of my other leagues. I got Kansas City Chiefs. I got 3 leagues going. I got Kansas Chiefs scattered all over the place. But I'm all in Clyde Edwards-Helaire too. So hopefully that pays out for me. All right, we got one last segment, Steve. We're not going to talk any fantasy today. Our next podcast we will with Jake. It's our Pick'em Sports Parlay. So our 5 games we're taking with the spreads. It's a little early in the week, but fuck it. We'll get it going. So what do you got, Steve?
So we're going with Jacksonville +8 against Indy. I think they got a good passing offense there in Jacksonville to keep it closer than the spread. These are all my lines were like opening day lines too. So if they moved, I apologize. Seattle was -1.5, and we're going to take them. Tennessee -2.5, we're going to take them. Detroit +1, I like them against Chicago. I think they're going to dominate. And then Arizona +7, that new offense is going to keep it close and not get blown out.
Cool. So tonight I'm taking Houston +9. I think that's a lot of points for essentially 2 teams that haven't had any preseason games. They're going to be a little rusty. I don't think the offenses click. I mean, you might see Patrick Mahomes throw a deep ball to Tyreek Hill on the first play and see if it connects, and it might, set the tone for the rest of the game. But I just kind of think they'll be off. I think everybody will be a little off. So I think 9 points is too many points to give to Deshaun Watson. He'll keep the game close till the end. I love divisional games, especially if I get points. I'm taking Chicago +3. Bears with a better defense than Detroit, and they get the points. I'm taking Miami +6.5, divisional game against the Patriots. Cam, again, no preseason, still getting acclimated to the offense. And for some reason, I think the Finns have the Pats number. They always, you know what I mean? They always find a way to beat them. I don't know. And then I get 6.5 points, so I don't even need to win. Washington, we talked about this earlier. I like their front 4. Their defense is pretty good, and I think people are sleeping on how Haskins and McLaren are underrated, and they have that Ohio State Buckeye connection. Divisional game, scary good talent on defense. Washington +6 against the Eagles. And then I took Monday night, and I took them before the Von Miller news, but I'm still taking them. Denver +2.5. I love Locke and his offensive weapons. Defense is very talented. And they're playing Tennessee. They're getting 2.5 points. Is it in Tennessee? I think it's in Mile High.
I don't know where it is. I think it is in Mile High. I think Tennessee's a road team. They're a road favorite.
So I think that might pay off for me because it's up in
So-
the altitude.
So our parlays are going head to head here because you got Tennessee, I got Tennessee, you got Denver, and I've got Detroit, and you got Chicago.
Yep. Those are the 2 coin flip ones because everything else is more than 6 points. So the
Yeah.
2 games that are more or less 3 points or less, yeah, we're going head to head on. So this should be interesting. I hope. Good luck, brother.
Yeah.
All right, so next podcast, we're going to talk with Jake about our fantasy football drafts and teams, what everybody thinks. I don't know if we should do that Sunday or Saturday. We'll figure it out. But we're going to do a segment for each week about we have a specific picnic sports draft that we all did, and maybe just talk to the winners of each week. But yeah, it's great to be back. Football's back, baby. I'm excited.
we can finally do this podcast for real now.
Yeah, let's make our viewers some money this year. So, watch our podcast, take in our notes and analytics or anecdotes for, our teams and stats and odds and the spreads because it's here, man. It's here.
And
we
if
got
you-
the knowledge.
And if you put $10 on a 5-team parlay, you win $240. So bet both of them because they both can't win.
All right. So, all right, cool. All right, guys. Thanks for joining Picnic Sports Podcast, and we'll talk to you soon. Go Chiefs tonight.
Go Eagles.
See ya.